and welcome. Our guest has been, and still is, a visual artist, a creator of theatrical scenery, a costume maker, an art teacher, and a painter, not of houses, but of amazing artwork. And he's just had a very successful exhibition of his work, some of which we're going to show you. But first, let's meet the man himself, Brian Budgen.
Hi, Malcolm.
Brian, we've known each other for we just worked out, 30 years.
About 30 years, yes.
And we met whilst painting scenery together.
We did.
But let's
Sitting on our bums.
But you taught me to paint with long-handled brushes.
That's right.
Standing up, which makes a huge difference.
Yeah.
And with rulers and support things.
Yep.
Because prior to that, I'd always had a bad back because of crawling around on canvas floors, painting big sets.
I remember that.
Anyway, It's not about me, it's all about you.
That's okay.
So let's start at the beginning. Were you always attracted to art as a kid?
Yeah, pretty much. You know, I was drawing fairly early and used to have drawing competitions with my father at the kitchen table.
Oh, really?
And he was a bit of a cartoonist, actually. And,
right.
So we'd sit there and I'd do this drawing and he'd do a drawing and, you know, we'd sort of compare it. It was quite good, actually. That was one thing I think that
Now,
did
see,
influence
that's really
me.
interesting you say that, because quite often we never hear those bits from people when we're talking about what they do. We never hear interesting little tidbits like that about, you know, I didn't know that, and I've known you for a long time. I didn't know that your father also worked with art.
Well, I didn't actually know either until I inherited, I knew that he had a copy of a series of books from the Second World War, As You Were, 1949, and a whole bunch of about 20 books to do with the Air Force and the Navy and the Army during the war. And I'd thumb through these books and out would fall these drawings, these cartoons. And what are these? Oh, I just did those while I was up in Darwin, you know. Oh, yeah. They were pretty good.
My father carved shells and shot down planes and made jewellery for Mum and other bits and pieces. That's a time that's been forgotten.
As did my grandfather, in fact, my maternal grandfather.
There you are.
Yeah.
So you obviously went through school, and was there an interest shown from teachers in your drawing ability?
Oh, there was, yeah. In grade 6, I remember our teacher, can't remember his name right now, but he would teach us. The one teacher taught just about everything.
Yep.
So a stack of books on his desk at the front of the classroom, and on top of that, he put his hat. And he said, "Okay, we're going to draw the teacher's hat."
Right.
So I said, "Okay." And so I drew the hat. And he saw my drawing and he said, can I have a look at that? Sure, you can have a look at that. I never saw it again.
Oh, okay.
And I remember doing a drawing of the Taj Mahal in Indian ink, pretty primitive one in grade 7. And the headmaster, Mr. Raggett, that was Glenelg Primary School in those days, he said, "Oh, I like that. Can I have a look at that?" You know, "Yes, you can have a look at that." It disappeared. It was up in his office on the wall, and I never saw it again. So there you go.
So you went obviously to a high school, but then because you didn't go to art school first, did you?
No, I started in fact as a window dresser.
Oh, did you?
Yep.
Were you painting bits of sets and things for the window?
Later on, I was about 12 years as a window dresser, and one of the things that it did teach me was balance and depth, because you're really creating a three-dimensional painting.
Yes,
I did a lot of fashion windows and a lot of menswear windows.
Right.
Won an award for one of them.
Fantastic.
And it's pretty good. And a lot of fabric windows where you could shape the fabric to almost whatever you wanted, really.
Yeah, I remember seeing those.
Found those really creative, and I learned a lot.
But you did go to art school.
Yeah.
How did that affect your work?
Going to art school?
Yeah.
Well, it opened me right up. You sort of objectivise yourself. You are a member of society, but you're slightly apart from society. You tend to, the education that I got anyway, you tend to kind of look at society and reflect the things that you see. They say that artists are the mirror of society.
Quite.
So, you know.
Well,
So
it can
that
be. It
was-
depends on what the subjects are, I
Yes,
suppose.
this is true. This is true. Yeah. So
But also the style of work. Are you a realistic painter? How
I'd
would
call
you-
myself a realist.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. When I was at art school, I got into abstraction and hard edge and did all the isms as you do. You learn how to paint like the Impressionists and learn how to paint like the Cubists and learn how to paint.
Well,
like
I guess
this,
that's
that,
the
and the
reason you go to uni
Yeah.
in the first place, to really
Yeah.
find where your path is going to
Yeah.
be.
Yeah, so about 12 years as a window dresser, and then I decided I'd go to art school. So,
Oh, so you weren't a
okay.
teenager when that happened?
Oh no, I was in my 20s.
Right.
And first of all, I did 3 years part-time of life drawing.
Not of naked people, I should
Of
imagine.
naked people, yeah.
Goodness.
Men, women, yes, absolutely. And did quite well at that, so I thought, maybe I should go full-time. So then I decided to enrol full-time and I did 3 years of part-time and then another 4 years full-time.
And then you did a teaching degree.
I got my art degree and
Right.
then I did a teaching degree after that.
And so for a long time you were an art teacher. Was that,
I was.
Was that encouraging or frustrating? Did you feel you were seeing a new generation of artists?
Only a handful of kids went on to be art teachers or artists that I came in contact with. It's just the way of it. You know.
Well, it is, but you
um,
wonder how much your influence would have, would have directed them into that field, or given them a passion
Yeah.
to continue.
Yeah, you do. And a couple have got back to me and said, yes, well, I'm an art teacher now, and it's because of you, Mr. Budgen.
Yes, isn't
Blah,
that lovely?
blah, blah.
But it's rather solitary profession when you think about it, unless, of course, you're drawing naked people.
Well, I'm not sure. How do you mean by solitary? You mean
Well-
you're on your own in front of the class, etc.?
No, sorry. As a painter, as an artist,
Oh,
you're...
yeah.
See, I'm always confused because to me, an artist is somebody who paints. But now an artist is every other thing under the sun, whether they're performers, singers, actors, dancers, they're all artists. But
That's
to me,
true.
the proper word for somebody who paints is an artist.
Is a visual artist.
Well, now it's become
Yeah.
visual artist.
Yeah.
It's very confusing.
Yeah, it is.
Well, speaking of visual arts, let's have a bit of visuals of some of
a
your
few
work.
visuals, sure.
Because we've got some great shots of some of the paintings, and perhaps you could explain them to us.
Well,
Not that you need any explanation. I'm just guessing that's a beach,
Well, this one,
possibly Glenelg.
possibly Glenelg. Yes, it's looking north along the esplanade at Glenelg, and it's called The Searchers.
Yes.
Yes, and so there's somebody there looking for somebody. There's somebody leaning out of one of the balconies, and there's a guy on the beach. You used to see this guy almost every day, walking along the beach with his electronic metal detector thing.
Looking for rings and other
all sorts of things.
accidentally lost.
And of course the helicopter. This one is the painting I did last year. It's called Holiday at Glenelg, and it's after Charles Condor, the Australian Impressionist painter. He painted a painting called Holiday at Mentone.
Okay.
So the jetty and the figures are all in exactly the same position as Charles' painting.
Right.
Except that it's Glenelg Beach.
Except
and
it's
not
Glenelg
Mentone.
Beach.
Yeah.
Well, that's an homage to him.
And that one was sold last year at my quite successful exhibition that I had at Mezzanine 55.
Right.
This one is from the same exhibition, which was sold, and it was used as the promo for the exhibition as well, with the lettering and what have you.
Oh,
on it.
great.
The car wasn't actually there.
Gosh, who's that then?
That's my self-portrait that I put in to a prize last year, but I didn't quite make it.
What didn't you make?
I didn't.
Well,
get-
this is Peter Gers. I recognised him instantly.
Many years ago,
A young version,
when Peter was still living at Norwood
and still smoking a
and
lot.
still smoking, which he doesn't now. The smoke can't even get out of the painting. So he
I
said, "How
see
about-
that. What a lovely image.
How about a portrait?" And so, okay, so there he is, tucked in his office, right in the very corner, with all his favourite books and what have you.
So for those people in Melbourne, Peter is a well-known identity here in South Australia who does radio, ABC radio every night, and has been a commentator of life in print media for quite some time.
Absolutely.
A theatre critic and many other things. And he's also been a guest on this show.
Ah.
And Brian, we have to take a short break, but there's lots more I'd like to show everyone.
Sure.
So we'll be back in a moment to do just that. Our guest is visual artist Brian Budgen. See, I said visual artist, just in case we're not sure. Now, we've been looking at some of your work, and I'd like to have a look at some more because I love your work, and it's really interesting, your style. And when you see the paintings in the flesh, so to speak, you mostly paint with oil or watercolours on canvas. This seems to have a bit of a Japanese influence from that great Japanese painter, and I'm sure it didn't.
Big waves down at Glenelg. You can see one of the warning what's-the-names over in the right-hand corner there.
Boys?
Well, it's sort of a standing affair with a sign on it, and I think it's part of the channel for boats to go into the harbour there.
You've got some lovely movement amongst that. I mean, for a still picture, that's great. Now, that clearly isn't you, but...
No, that's Jeff Wilson, was one of my lecturer in painting in fourth year art school.
See, isn't that lovely? Because that's a real tribute to a teacher.
Is 96, still painting, and I have coffee with him every Monday morning.
Fantastic.
Yeah. That's a mural that I was commissioned to do for Long Tan, a display on the Battle of Long Tan at Keswick Army Museum. It's 6 metres by 4.
Yes, well...
we have the the rubber plantation in the background of Long Tan, and the helicopter is rescuing a soldier after the battle.
Right.
And the winch actually works. So up and down goes the stretcher.
Okay, did you make all that too?
Oh, no, they did that.
Because you've made some amazing scenery bits and pieces and all sorts of things.
Yeah, it's true.
Now, here's another from a battle.
That one is a smaller mural that commissioned from the same place.
Right.
It's the engineers unit that were based at Keswick during the war, and that's a photograph of them under fire and strafing and what have you in Libyan desert.
On other side,
that's the Rats of Trabuc, in fact, rescuing a Bren gun carrier.
Right.
Yeah, and it's blown up from a small black and white photograph that they gave me.
Right, and you repainted it.
And I had to research.
I love these in different seagulls.
Oh yes, aren't they though? No, so you've got the reflections and the shadows, and of course if you look into the water you can see the clouds.
Yes.
So it's a bit of a homage to Monet in a way.
Right.
So I just call it seagulls.
You know, to get inspiration to do different things, and so far, you know, everything we're looking at, like this one, is completely different.
Yes. I
mean, the work is completely different subject matter.
The steelworks at Whyalla, when I was teaching up at Whyalla for 3 years, teaching art, and I went up to the hill and looked at it and I said, well, that looks pretty interesting, so I did a drawing.
Yeah, I love the rust look. And this one, is this the Flinders Ranges?
That is the Flinders Ranges. The Flinders Ranges beckon. That one was sold from the Kensington Hotel year before last.
Okay, there you go.
Yeah, so there you go.
Excellent.
And it's about 1 metre square, that one. This one, Rhythm of the Feet, it's called. If you look through the legs, you can see the shops on the other side of the road. Just interesting watching people walking by. But
we know it's fairly modern because of the look of the shoes. Yeah. And this one, obviously...
This is an old house in Broken Hill. It's just finished, and so that one will be going into an exhibition later on.
Oh, well, that's really got a lovely feel. It really pulls you into that block.
Oh, that's probably the shadow of the Stobie pole and the electric
You're
wire.
good with shadows, and this is an old theatre?
This is an old theatre, the Eclipse Theatre in northern New South Wales. And the painting's entitled Twilight at the Eclipse.
Because it is.
Well, it is twilight, and it's eclipses twilight as well.
Because it's not used anymore.
Yeah, but it's a lovely
Very interesting.
Art Deco.
Yeah, very interesting. So they're all oil on canvas or acrylics? Or
The few last ones are oil, but I painted in acrylics for a long time.
How tough is it being a painter or a visual artist? How difficult is it? Because you've got to sell to survive in a way.
Yeah.
You've got to accept that it's got to be in a place that can be in business enough to sell your work.
Absolutely.
So the commission they take is usually fairly solid.
Yeah.
So when somebody buys a painting, there's a markup on your painting.
Well, you'd probably have to include the commission if they're...
Oh, in the total price,
In the total price.
But you've got to be aware of that.
The price of the frame, the price of the canvas, you think about the price of the paints, and then you think about your work.
Or how long it took to paint.
And how long it took to paint.
And what you're worth per hour,
well,
so to speak.
Sort of, but it's sort of, what you think the painting is worth. I mean, sometimes you can take months to do a painting. You really can't charge that sort of money. Well, unless the people are very well off.
Until after you've gone and then somebody's got it and then they charged large amounts.
Exactly.
The famous painters. Now, you've also done a lot of scenery painting.
Oh, yes, Malcolm, now we're getting...
And, well, that's a passion of us both, and we do have some shots of some of the sets, but when you're painting scenery, generally... You're either painting an actual picture on like a backdrop, or you're painting something like a wall that's got to look like a real wall.
It's got to look
solid.
like a real wall, yeah.
Yeah,
exactly.
Here's an interesting set piece.
This was for a little night music. Now, where was that? That was with the GNS Society, actually.
Okay.
And they had the orchestra up on stage, as you can see, small
amongst
orchestra.
the trees.
Yeah, and
that would have been fairly large, I imagine.
It was 5 metres,
oh, here it is.
10 metres by 5.
Here it is on the floor in its real colour.
Here it is on the floor in its real colour at the GNS Society, just after I finished painting it, actually, on
Was
canvas.
that a gauze?
No, it was a solid canvas, 10 metres by 5.
Well, the reason I ask that is because there is a depth we can see in that, obviously, created with the outlines.
Well, mixing some of the background colour with the trees pulls them back.
Here's something a lot bigger.
That's some projection work that I designed for Scotch College when I was teaching there. I did 12 of their musical productions in a row.
Right.
Yeah. And we got into projection, and so these are small slides that we project onto a flat surface. So there's your wall.
Yes, so it's got to look real, like the wall behind us.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, now I can't.
So it's like the variation of colour there. So it looks like real bricks.
Well, yeah, and that just makes it a bit more interesting.
And that would have just been a canvas
the same
flat.
Colour.
Probably.
Wooden flat, I think. Here's another projection from... the last one was from Beauty and the Beast, and this is the same. And so there was a major area in the middle, plus 2 smaller side projections, and the doors were actually real. People could come through
Right.
them.
Oh, brilliant.
Yeah.
And that's how scenery has changed now, though, hasn't it? Because
absolutely.
we all used to paint these massive pictures, and now we just turn the projector on.
That's dead right.
But the picture's got to come from somewhere.
It does.
So it still needs an artist to design that.
Absolutely.
What if somebody watching this program thinking, I paint, I draw, I'd like a bit more information. Here's a little bit more, by the way.
The torn piece of wallpaper, that was for the same show as the brick wall, but I can't remember what it was. The place was supposed to look a bit run down, so I thought, well, I'll paint a torn bit of wallpaper.
Yes, so it's not real, it's just paper.
It's not real, it's just all dead flat. This was for Peter and Alice, for the Independent Theatre Company in the Playhouse.
Right.
Oh, the Space Theatre, actually.
And there is another Festival Centre here in Adelaide.
That one, Scotch College, Pirates of Penzance.
Right.
All these sort of cutouts from a little make it yourself sort of cut out stage set. So I try to imitate that.
Oh yes, yes, I know exactly what you mean.
And the moon is in fact a projection on the background.
Right.
So it moved during the show.
Yes, brilliant.
Yeah, and that was in the Bar Smith Theatre, which was just big enough.
Your thing is, what you're trying to do is create a place for the actors to do their thing that doesn't upstage the actors, but at the same time puts them in a place.
Exactly, yep. And that's my philosophy, or has been my philosophy, that the set should underline, not overpower. You
Yes.
know.
Well, you don't want to be reading the set. You need to be watching and getting the storyline.
Exactly.
It's just there to enhance.
Yeah.
So getting back to the question I asked before, so for somebody who's showing an aptitude for that, you've been an art teacher, you've been a professional painter in lots of different areas.
Yeah.
What advice would you give somebody as to how to make it a career? We've got 30 seconds, think fast.
How to make it a career.
Instead of that...
Work hard.
Work hard, but we'll take a quick break and you can find a really wonderful answer to that question. We'll come back and he'll answer it. Brian Budgen's our guest. We've been talking all things art. And just before the break, I asked the question, what advice would you give someone who's interested in becoming a visual artist?
Well, I'd say work hard, observe as much as you can, look at as much art as possible, and follow your dream, follow your nose. Once you develop your own style, that's the most important thing. Yes. A writer has their own style. A musician has their own style.
We're not painting photographs because we've got photographs now to start with. So you've got to find...
Well, art has to do something different.
A story or an impression.
Yeah. But the most important thing is to have your own style. Like in music, you can recognise Beethoven, you can recognise Bach, you can recognise Wagner, because of their style.
So I'd forgotten that. You love classical music as well.
I do, yeah.
And play it while you're painting.
I do.
Do you still do that?
Yep.
Yep. And do you find that inspires you?
Relaxes me.
Okay. But sometimes it's somebody else's art that helps your art.
That is true, yes. Well, I'm looking at the Glenelg beach painting that we saw. It's Charles Condor. I just copied the positions of the jetty, the actors, the subjects in the painting, and called it Holiday at Glenelg.
Well, see,
but I acknowledged Condor on the back.
Right. But see, that's interesting. You nearly said actor there, and in a way, that's what you've got to create in the painting. You've got to create a story that image is telling us.
Well, that's very true. People in paintings are, in a way, actors. Stationary ones, but they're acting out a story or telling a story.
Yes. No, it's been lovely to do this program, to be able to talk to people like yourself that I've known for a period of time, who's had an influence on my life as well.
Thank you.
Because you taught me a lot of things I didn't know painting scenery, which has been great, which I've enjoyed enormously. And we spent a lot of time in the middle of the night painting.
We did.
Because the show opens tomorrow.
That's right.
And always, artists painting sets are always, I hope this dries in time for the curtain to go up.
Exactly. There's been times when I've used radiators on stage to dry
yes,
stuff
blow
off.
fans and all those things. Talking about blowing fans, we've got to blow now and leave. Brian, it's been great talking with you.
Thank you, Malcolm.
And it's been lovely to have your company. So until next time on Our Time, please join us next time.